Charlie the dog who thinks he's a little boy, gets wet. Charlie wasn't just any dog. Oh no. He was a special little dog, a delightful white fluff ball with ridiculously long hair on his ears and a tongue that seemed to have a permanent vacation outside his mouth. All of that made him impossibly cute, but what truly set Charlie apart was his unwavering conviction that he was, in fact, a little boy. And Lynn, his devoted human mummy, agreed wholeheartedly. One morning, Lynn peered out the window and saw a beautiful blue sky dotted with fluffy white clouds, the kind that promised a perfect day. "Should we go for a walk, Charlie?" Lynn asked, her voice light with the promise of adventure. Charlie, perched on the edge of the sofa like a tiny, furry gargoyle, jumped slightly, his head tilting to the side. Lynn knew immediately that this meant a resounding yes. If you've had the pleasure of reading my other tales of Charlie, you'll know that Charlie is, without question, the supreme ruler of Lynn's household. He wields his cuteness, Lynn's firm belief in his little boy status, and that adorable perpetually stuck-out tongue like a tiny, fluffy dictator. "Come on, Charlie, let's go," Lynn chirped. "You won't need your doggy coat today, it's so warm, you'd be absolutely sweltering." Charlie responded with a series of soft growls that, to Lynn's discerning ear, sounded less like dog noises and more like a seasoned orator giving his gracious consent to the outing. Lynn clipped his lead on, and they stepped out, ready for their grand expedition. "Which way, Charlie?" Lynn inquired, knowing full well that route selection was strictly Charlie's domain. He paused, looking left, then right, grumbling something that Lynn perfectly translated as, "To the right, of course, human. Don't you ever pay attention?" "Okay, Charlie, right it is." Lynn conceded with a chuckle. Charlie happily trotted off, always a nose ahead of Lynn, ensuring his absolute control over their meandering path. The unforeseen turn. They ambled up a charming country lane. Charlie, being the sophisticated little boy he was, took in the sights with dignified interest. He observed the sheep in the fields with a discerning eye and gave the horses in the next pasture a subtle nod of approval. He was having the time of his life, a proper country ramble. "We've gone a long way, Charlie, and we still have to walk back," Lynn gently reminded him, but Charlie was in the mood for a proper leg stretch, and as we've established, Charlie gets what Charlie wants. So on they went, Charlie soaking up the glorious countryside. He even spotted a squirrel, a few rabbits, and, lo and behold, a rare hare. But Charlie, in his elevated state of little boyness, didn't even contemplate chasing them. Such common doggy stuff was beneath him. He merely offered a dignified sniff in their general direction, as if to say, "Pleasure to meet you, but I'm quite busy with my walk." Lynn and Charlie were thoroughly enjoying their idyllic stroll when, quite suddenly, the fluffy white clouds began to multiply and morph into an ominous, brooding grey. Charlie looked up at his mummy, his tiny face scrunching in an expression that clearly communicated, "It better not rain, mummy. I swear, if it rains." Lynn, understanding the unspoken threat, quickly said, "Come on, Charlie, let's go home." For once, Charlie wholeheartedly agreed, executing a surprisingly swift 180-degree turn, ready to make a dignified retreat. The inevitable downpour and its messy consequences. They hurried back, Charlie's little legs churning like tiny, white pistons. But it was too late. The heavens opened with a dramatic flourish, and the rain poured down as if the sky itself had sprung a colossal leak. Charlie was getting wet. And let it be known, Charlie did not do getting wet. Not one bit. They scrambled down the country lane, which was rapidly transforming into a muddy quagmire. Charlie, a connoisseur of cleanliness, absolutely abhorred getting muddy. Several times he shot Lynn a look that, if glares were lethal weapons, would have left Lynn instantly incapacitated. "I'm so sorry, Charlie, I'm so sorry," Lynn wailed, feeling the weight of his furious judgment. Charlie grumbled, and Lynn perfectly translated his internal monologue. "Why, oh why, did you drag me out in this aqueous apocalypse without my sensible coat, and up this disgusting muddy lane, mummy?" Lynn, drenched and deflated, could only repeat, "I'm sorry, Charlie, I honestly didn't know it was going to rain." This, of course, completely ignored the inconvenient truth that Charlie had, as always, meticulously chosen their route, but Charlie was never one to let a little thing like self-blame muddy his pristine self-image. On they rushed, Charlie getting wetter and muddier with each squishy step until he resembled a soaking wet mop on tiny little legs, with that signature tongue still sticking out like a defiant, pink flag. Charlie then delivered a particularly venomous glare, a look so potent that Lynn, knowing precisely what it meant, decided it was best not to repeat it, even to herself. With a sigh, Lynn scooped up her sodden little boy, trying to shield him from the relentless downpour with her own body. But it was a futile effort. Lynn was soaked and muddy, but far more importantly, Charlie was wet and muddy, and that simply would not do. Upon arriving home, Lynn, still clutching her disgruntled bundle of fur, declared, "Let's go in the back way, Charlie." This entrance led directly into the laundry room, a strategic move to contain the impending muddy chaos before reaching the pristine kitchen and, more crucially, the hallowed lounge. Fumbling with the keys, Lynn burst through the back door and gently deposited Charlie onto the floor. "Stay right there, Charlie, and I'll get an extra special soft towel for you, my poor boy." But Charlie was beyond poor boy status. He was a vengeful, unhappy little boy. He glanced to his right and saw the lounge door, tantalizingly ajar. So, while Lynn was upstairs, diligently rummaging for the fluffiest, most absorbent towel known to man, Charlie, seizing his moment of opportunity, dashed into the lounge, where it was deliciously warm. With all his might, he executed the legendary wet dog shake. Muddy water, like a chaotic abstract painting, exploded everywhere. It splattered up the walls, coated the pristine sofa, and even managed to hit the ceiling in a few enthusiastic arcs. Lynn descended the stairs, towel in hand, to witness this glorious, soggy masterpiece. Charlie sat in the middle of the carnage, looking up at her with an expression that screamed, "You took me out in the rain without my coat and up a muddy lane. Well, this is what you get." For a fleeting moment, a flicker of genuine anger ignited in Lynn's chest. But Charlie, with the innate cunning of a true ruler, sensed her burgeoning frustration. He then, with impeccable comedic timing, stuck out his cute little tongue, making it appear for an extra special, guilt-inducing performance. And just like that, Lynn's heart melted, as it always did. "Oh, it's okay, Charlie, it will clean up," Lynn sighed, resigned to her fate. But Charlie wasn't appeased. For the rest of the evening, he barely spoke, in his own inimitable way, to Lynn. It took several hours, a multitude of accusatory glares from Charlie, and an absurd quantity of treats before Charlie finally, grudgingly, forgave Lynn for taking him up that muddy lane. Again, for the record, Charlie chose the route and enthusiastically wanted to go out, but he was never one to let facts get in the way of a perfectly good blame game. From that day forward, if there was even the slightest whisper of rain on the horizon, Lynn could be seen trudging along, dutifully carrying Charlie's little dog coat, just in case he, the little boy who abhorred getting wet, might condescend to need it. Would you like to hear about a time Charlie attempted to help Lynn with the gardening, with the resulting chaos?